Start the episode.
Start the episode.
Start the episode. Shut up. Go. All right. Saucer Moron time. So you open up with a nice little opening where our temporary protagonist is a police officer who has to kind of deal with these strange lights floating in front of his car, which turn out to be the Voot Cruiser.
This officer has a crippling speech impediment. Or, wait, we're talking about this is a futuristic world. Maybe the police have a language all of their own that just sounds like mumbles to us. Where all they say is...
He gets a call in on the radio. He calls back. Both sound like radio babble. Both the car and the instrument panel look very futuristic, so there's more of that kind of interesting setting going on.
Here is a good example of this show kind of building a continuity of Zim learning about Earth.
Yeah.
Which, a show like this, in many ways, does stay status quo for reasons that are obvious, because syndication is a really difficult thing to deal with sometimes in terms of that. But we do see Zim progressively trying to learn things about his environment. And this is a great example of Zim taking notes, actually doing some good research, as if that's something he does. Wow, he gets so stupid by the end of the series. This is just sad to watch sometimes.
Yeah, we talked about his pack, right, and how
his pack is defective and then it might be deteriorating.
Yeah, that's my headcanon. I mean, of course it could just be character development, and there's probably a good amount of that in there, but I feel like over the course of the show, his already defective pack is just getting worse.
Yeah, I'd say that for this, it's one of those situations where there's a writer reason why, i.e. the writers got used to how they liked to write him and what was fun to write with him, and they got into a groove, and that happens all the time on shows.
Oh, yeah.
I could talk about King of the Hill, but I probably shouldn't.
It's not the place for that.
Well, you know, I was just going to talk about Peggy, but Peggy's really great.
That Dib boy ain't right.
Oh my god, Membranous and Kill. This is amazing.
He's living next to the membranes.
Bobby, stop playing with that Dib kid. Oh my god, Bobby and Gaz would share video games.
Bobby and Gaz, they'd be like sharing video games, and Bobby would be like, you know, say something like, so, did you catch that TV show the other day? Shut up! Gaz would just want to play video games. She would not be up for any chatter.
I know. She's like, socializing is not part of this agreement. Okay.
Oh my god, Dib meets Dale.
Dib meets Dale. Oh my god, Dale becomes Dib's mentor, and it's exactly like that episode where he has that investigator that he gets close to, and he's like, all of this stuff isn't real, and Dale's like, no. Pocket sand, and he runs off. Okay,
it bounces off Dib's glasses, and Dib's like, that was ineffective.
You're right, I've been thwarted again.
They swap stories about how terrible those fucking insane asylums were.
Both of them tell everyone how the mental health facilities in this country are just completely not helping anyone. Alright, anyway.
You asked for it to be longer. This is what you get. We got a bunch of people asking us to make the episodes longer.
I talk a lot, so never tell me that. Just don't.
I'm not sure we'll be able to deliver more than 15 to 20 good, solid minutes of content.
I know! The rest of it will just be, like, completely ridiculous bullshit, like what you just heard, or maybe you didn't just hear it because I cut it out.
Back to the episode. This is also the first instance of Delicious Weenie, so marking that. That's a plot-ish point later.
Oh, I didn't actually finish to continue on my thought. There are writer reasons why something happens, and there can be in-canon reasons why something happens. Obviously, there's a writer reason of they changed how they like to write Zim, or they got comfortable with a certain way of writing Zim, and it was funnier if he was dumber. And who cares, you know? I mean, if that's what they want to make, that's what they want to make. But then we, as fans, can try to figure out reasons why in canon he might have changed personality. And then both reasons are enjoyable, you know? One of them kind of sticks to the universe and explains it, and the other one is really just the logical reason why it happened outside of the show.
And I think that things get a lot more fun as a fan once you stop worrying about which one is right. You know, you see that especially with poor comic book fans and all the continuities they have to deal with. Don't worry so much about who has it right. Just stick with whatever's fun and let other people have fun with stuff, you know?
Listen, blank is the only blank.
Also, my apologies. Zim just called it a Voot Runner in this episode. I still haven't been able to tell if there's a difference in vehicles between the Voot Runner and the Voot Cruiser. I think they're the same thing, but Saucer Morons, it's the Voot Runner.
Woo! We will say for the sake of this that maybe they're the same thing and they just forgot they had a name for it. Nah, I don't know. I'm guessing they actually are two separate vehicles. But then why doesn't he use it, both of them? Doesn't he?
I'm pretty sure that they are the same vehicle. I never noticed a difference.
Okay. Yeah. If she hasn't, then the rest of you are not allowed to. That's just the rules.
You dip.
All right. I think that it's a trend with the show that Irkin stuff has weird, mundane weaknesses, i.e. water and bees. So, I guess just never put your spaceship near a bee. What I was also going to say about that was that he calls it Irkin engineering reduced to this, and I doubt it. I'm guessing it was made by Irkins, but not engineered by it. Come on.
Yeah, there's no way to know if that one is Irkin or Vorshin technology.
Isn't it Voot?
Voot, coming from Vorshin?
Yeah. I feel like it would be. It just at least seems to me that it might be that.
That does make enough sense. Zim's ship might also... No, I'm not going to say that.
Why?
I was peeking at the wiki and it says that it's one of the most out-of-date Irkin ships. But I don't see that done anywhere in canon, and they point to Tak's ship as being a more advanced version, but Tak just built her ship herself.
Here, let me speculate on that thought.
Yeah.
So, we did see him coming in from Foodcordia. He came in from Foodcordia and jumped into this I want to be invader thing.
Mm-hmm.
If he had the same ship for his exile in Foodcordia, then he would have a more out-of-date ship, I guess.
It does make enough sense.
Though he might have gotten a new ship. No, I can't see them giving him a new ship.
He must have hijacked whatever ship he got.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely... Oh, you're right. He had to have stolen this ship. Then why does it look like all the other ships? This is a silly route to go down, but...
Yeah.
This is just nitpicks that are not worth making, because... Why?
Okay, and the wiki lists the Voot Runner and the Voot Cruiser as the same vehicle.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say that I'm right on that.
You are. You're always right.
I'm always right.
That's why people come to this.
Never question me.
They come to this podcast to hear how right we are all the time.
They come to this podcast for results, damn it.
What are we...
We get results!
What results? The results are you listen to audio for several minutes.
The results are comprehensive Zim information. You're a primary source, Chelsea.
Oh, yeah.
Cited in dozens of papers nationwide.
I do know that. I mean, all the Zim academic works out there. We are definitely one of them.
The results we get are literally being Zim academics.
Oof. Alexis loves that. You're in love with that.
I do. I was gonna do some sort of sarcastic, that's worth a bunch, I'm proud of my life. I'm like, oof, no, that's... Yeah, I'm unapologetically happy about that.
Yeah,
nice.
I think being a Zim academic, for me, I'm totally into being a media academic, if you will. And Zim is a fun show, so there's stuff to mine from it. But I think that I wouldn't like that to be my primary career field.
Well, no, not primary career field, but it's a title.
As part of my awesome titles.
You can minor in Zim academia.
Yeah, you just have to go to our school. Pay us a couple $1,000 and we will sit and talk to you about Zim for as long as you want.
Erkin History 101. Erkin Military Tactics.
That's pretty much all they are. History and military tactics. And
the history of Erkin Military Tactics.
Yeah, the history class is mostly about their military tactics, and it's mostly lies, too, because they're pretty much just like, and that's when we totally invented all this stuff that they totally didn't invent.
Abortion engineering, late 21st century human engineering, which is like 7 units on Professor Membrane. Intragalactic,
radiation burns.
Back to radiation burns, baby. Okay, so UFO man sees that Zim's ship has crashed and changes the date of the UFO convention from next week to today. Can you imagine if any other convention tried to just move up their date like that? The madness that would descend.
I think the great thing about our world as it is that contracts require lots of prior negotiation. Yeah, also, Zim is terrible at stealth. Not that that's a surprise, but it has been shown that while he's running to his house, trying to be as quiet and stealthy as possible, it seems as if he literally throws himself into garbage cans to make lots of noise in order to make, I don't know, maybe that's part of the intimidation tactics that he's working on. Perhaps he's afraid of cats or raccoons and he's just trying to make a lot of noise before he gets to somewhere. Oh, we didn't mention Gur being in the club. We did mention Gur.
We kind of already talked about that.
Gur being into culture, and I think that's part of it.
It's a good gag. There's not too much more we can mine from that, though. First off, Zim takes the Voot carrier, which is kind of his towing vessel for the Voot cruiser, and I'm just going to call it the cruiser, even though it's the runner in this episode, because it tends to be called the cruiser more often. These guys has a giant floating pig, which is already great if you want something inconspicuous. But beyond that, he has spoken to it and called it pig twice in this episode. You expect that from Gur, but he's like, stay here, pig. Why is Zim anthropomorphizing the Voot carrier?
I think that Gur definitely got it from somewhere.
I learned it from you!
I learned it from watching you. Alright. They show the tent where he has his initiation, and he's screaming for an uncomfortably long amount of time before he finally staggers out of the tent with the hat on.
The sound effects that they play while he's in there, those are pretty obviously sound effects that you use when somebody's getting punched. I mean, do you have anything to comment on like that? Because to me, those are pretty obviously punching sound effects.
I feel like because it's outside the tent, they're trying to leave it open, but even so, it's held on for a while.
Yeah, and it kind of loses some of its punch, because we've already, recently at least, they've already done a joke about an initiation test sort of thing that we don't know what it is, but causes obvious injury. Like,
in the
Bestest Friend.
But it wasn't on Zim.
It wasn't on Zim.
Is this the first time Zim's getting tortured?
That's a good question.
And hey, you know what?
It's the first time there's the implication of, like, kind of classic torture rather than just him having a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he had to peel all the meat off himself, and he was sort of being tortured by the germs, but it wasn't anyone inflicting it on him. It was him inflicting it on himself. I'm wondering if this is like oh, Zim, you kind of deserve this punishment because you're f***ed up. You f***ed up and crashed your ship right here. Now you have to go through all of this bullshit.
There's really good timing on the reveals in this episode, too. Like, the bee shows up, the Zim thinking the park is a safe place, and then the immediate cut to UFO man getting ready for the UFO convention. The cut to Zim gets out of the tent and sees that they have found the Voot carrier as well. That's some pretty good timing. And timing on those reveal jokes is pretty good. Not too big on the UFO alien lady. And the term alien love ship just feels out of place. I don't like positive adjectives in Invader Zim.
Well, I mean, these are the crazy people. The crazy people believe that the aliens are coming down for love. I'm going to take this further.
Oh, no. I mean,
we've talked about how this world is a cold and desolate place. Maybe people think they're crazy not just because they believe in aliens, but because they believe that there is some power out there that cares about them or wants love to happen. I guess what I think is interesting about that is we have talked about how everyone's really cold and dirty and mean.
Mm-hmm.
We have these hippies and stuff. They're all also dirty and weird and everything. But them believing that this has to do with some sort of love ship.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, that's a weird radical idea for this world. It's a very strange thing for people to think or believe. So it works. Okay, so right away, Zim is terrified of being discovered and screams about laying eggs in their stomachs and stuff. I have to say this is definitely Dib's influence. The first thing he starts seeing is dissection stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing that... Oh, no, here. This is a great idea. Dib, sitting in class, passes a note to Zim. It's a picture of a dissection.
Oh, yeah. Dib is probably... That got old really fast. And Zim would just believe that. He'd believe that's exactly what's going to happen to me. And, well, whatever would happen to Zim would be whatever was funniest. Dissection really isn't outside of the ballpark.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, in general, I could definitely see this world dissecting him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not out of the ordinary to think, but I think it's funny because Zim is such an arrogant being that even though he tries right away to try and lie out of the situation, there's so many other things he could do. But I think his confidence has been hurt a little bit by the idea that humans might be a threat. Because before he really didn't think they were at all, and now he's surrounded by a crowd of them. He could be doing something else.
Yeah, the bee.
The bee and Dib together.
Oh, that'd be the worst.
That bee was sent by Dib. It was Dib's agent.
God, there's an episode that didn't get made called Simon Says Doom, where they would both be dressed up in these bee suits. Oh, I think Alexis even had a design for that. I want that so badly.
I just want a picture of Dib standing there, like with his fist out, and there's like two hives behind him and just bees swarming out.
Oh my god, that would be the best thing.
Dib sits and individually trains the bees.
Ow! Ow! Maybe this wasn't my best idea.
No, Gaz walks by, just gives him a look, and he goes, "I'm still workshopping it!" Sure. They had him go through water without any ill effects in the episode right before they showed the wetting one?
Yeah, we gotta stick with what Jonan said, which I don't know if he made it up on the fly or if he intended it in the show Bible from the beginning. Oh my god, what do I do to get my hands on the show Bible? But it's the germs in the water, not the H2O itself. So anytime Zim gets sprayed with water and it doesn't hurt him, if you want to give the show the benefit of the doubt, you should either assume that it's pure water or that he's got his paste on.
Well, he can't have his paste on in this this one because he just splashed through water. That's just what happened.
But it was a pretty natural location, which we don't see much of. So I suppose we are to assume that that water is sterile.
Alright. I guess they just sterilize the water in lakes. I suppose it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility, but, you know.
Yeah, it's what we gotta do if we want to keep the continuity pure.
Unlike the water.
I think that you should be having a bigger problem with the fact that Zim crash lands right in the middle of the legitimate scientists discussing alien life.
Are we sure they're legitimate scientists?
Yeah, one of the ones in the audience is a scientist that we regularly see. We've seen him work with membrane before.
Okay. Yeah, this one obviously doesn't care too much about explaining away what happens at the end. Some of them do, and some of them don't. I mean, we had the one with Dib being famous for being a cyborg pig boy.
I can believe that one I accept readily into canon. Dib is known by all who meet him as that Dib kid. Dib's got so much history that we will never know about. The Mysterious Mysteries incident alone.
I guess that's true. The joke of the episode, I think, really just rounds out to, you know, the bee at the end, still taking them down again after they've gone through this. Oh, we're finally free! No, wait, we're not. Like, that's the joke.
Bee's the best bee.
Dib's terrible bee agents. So let's cover a few little things. Zim is our protagonist in this one, but less so than in other episodes. I don't really have much sympathy for him here. I mean, he's afraid of the humans, and he isn't really enjoying it, but they're hardly doing anything to him other than making him sorta uncomfortable.
Yeah, I gotta say that this really doesn't rank as one of my favorite episodes of Invader Zim. It's got some really good moments in it, but, like, Zim is so perturbed by these humans, he immediately forgets his mission. I mean, maybe it's just so far out of normal operating procedures that he can't handle it, because generally invaders invade stealthily and they gain a stranglehold on the planet before disrupting it and, you know, destroying it. They destroy it from the inside. But, like, this group of people, he's got people who worship him. I mean, he's not gonna try to use that?
Yeah, I'd say this episode feels like it wasn't written by the same people who do the more plot-driven episodes, and I'm wondering if we can check that really quick.
Yeah, let me check that.
Why I'm positing this is because this one feels like a very formulaic type of concept. He's an alien, he's on Earth, he ends up at a UFO convention.
Yeah.
You can't really go much further into a very almost mundane idea for this, and they don't really do much with it. It's what you would typically expect from that sort of an episode, or that sort of a plot, rather. And this episode doesn't add much, other than what I did say. It did look like he was researching. But yeah, I think that a smarter direction to have gone with this would be to set this episode up like, alright, Zim lands in the UFO convention by accident. He freaked out that they're going to do something to him because of Dib's influence. You have Dib being at this UFO convention. Mm-hmm. They all start worshipping Zim. Great leader, blah, blah, blah. You have Dib trying to tell them, you idiots, he's evil, he's trying to hurt us. And they're all like, shut up, you don't know anything. And the whole episode can then center around Dib trying to prove Zim is a human, not an alien. That would be so much funnier. Dib is annoyed because he has to try to get them to believe the opposite of what he has to try and get everyone in the classroom to believe. He has to try and always tell them he's an alien, look, he's green, he has no ears. Now he has to tell them it's a skin condition. He just has a skin condition.
So good.
Way better writing, way better character. It would have been a way funnier episode that way. In general, I think that's just poor use of a plot that you could have done more with. I'm gonna speculate that Andy Berman couldn't come in, so they just wanted to record with...
No, I think that they just this is an early episode. They just wanted to do one that didn't have Dib in it. And I mean, Dib's my favorite, but I think it's good to have episodes without him in it. You gotta be able to let Zim kind of develop on his own. And,
I mean, even though Walk of Doom isn't one that I'm really particularly fond of, I think it's a far stronger episode than this one. Because
this one's written by Joan and Eric. So,
okay. So
Vasquez and True Heart.
Same people. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'd say that maybe this is just a fault of writing this one early. Maybe they wrote this one right after the pilot or something like that, because the pilot's pretty run-of-the-mill, too.
This is a pretty gimme episode. You know, it'd be a good episode of another show, but it's a mediocre episode of a really good show.
Yeah, I mean, if we're comparing this to some cartoons, it still had a lot of legitimate laughs from us.
Oh, yeah.
Still great delivery, still great animation.
The timing is impeccable as usual.
Yeah, it's not like this episode is terrible. It's just, I feel like they could have done something more creative with it, since it's such a weird show. It's such a show that goes to places you don't expect, and this is a very expected place. So,
yeah. And so, I mean, you might even say that it'd be a pity if they didn't have this episode, because it makes so much sense, and I guess I could understand that.
It'd be a pity if they didn't have it, but like I said, there are so many ways to have it and not have it be so mundane.
Yeah.
Government Man is funny, though. I mean,
that's the thing. There's lots of really good moments in this. Like, anything with the bee is funny. We get some good pig jokes, and I mean, we get a bunch of that throughout the series, but these are still funny ones. You know, we get him riding along on a giant pig, which is an easy thing to take for granted. You know, that's really awesome. You know,
I also really love Government Man calling him an experimental aircraft.
Government Man is so funny. We get a chance to hear Ricky's normal voice.
Oh, hey, you know what's actually really great about that he's an experimental aircraft joke?
Yeah.
It isn't really fully explained what was supposed to go on in this plan, but a smart watcher knows that what Zim told Gur to do was to say that the Voot Cruiser was an experimental aircraft. He told Gur, come in here, dressed as a government man, and say, this was just an experimental aircraft, the typical explanation for a UFO. But instead, Gur comes in and says that Zim is an experimental aircraft. And the way that you know that that's what he didn't tell Gur to do, Zim's reaction is like, ugh!
Oh god, I never even stopped to think about that. You're totally right.
Yeah, it's an implied joke in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's funny even if he had no context in which to refer to Zim as an experimental aircraft. But you know why he told him to say that, and that he's just so fucking up orders, man. He is not even doing it right. Gur is especially incompetent in this episode. He ignores Zim when Zim is out in the field and probably would have needed backup. And I can't imagine that Zim doesn't spend tons of time in his basement working on crap, and Gur has probably plenty of time then to goof around. Well, then I guess Zim probably wouldn't let him run out. This is probably him sneaking out like a bad kid.
Maybe early on he allows him out enough to go, Gur, go gather information. Gur's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, in this case, it didn't seem like he understood that Gur was gone, though. He definitely said in his early bit, there must be interference. Why wouldn't he be there? So, I think he's expecting Gur to wait on his beck and call, and Gur is the rebellious teenager who has run out to the club with the people who look like they're a little high. Like, they looked like they were a little up there. Not sure. Who knows?
Anyway, lots of good specific jokes in this, but not the best episode. Hey, if it's one of your favorites, no worries there.
Yeah, I think that my only qualm is that it's easy to make this episode a little stronger in terms of narrative. and I was sad to see them not do it. I think the problem is that it's coming from a show that tends to be really good.
Yeah.
And when you see it not living up to what you know its potential is, you're like, oh, that was all right, and I still laughed, and it was pretty funny, but I feel like it could have gone better.
And you know what? For everything that exists, not every episode can be completely perfect. We don't expect it to. We're going episode by episode, so we're going to talk about that stuff, and not everything should be perfect. Totally okay.
Totally.